Why does it seem like earnest people who are earnestly seeking truth sometimes find it and sometimes don't?
This is an event that Frank Turek put on a year ago in December, almost exactly a year ago in fact. And I went to the event and I asked him this question. And I want to explain to you some of the surrounding context around the question, and then get into his answer and his response and the dialogue that we had, and fill in a lot of things that were cut out from the conversation. So one of the things that's very important is that I explained in the dialogue that I had a friend who was wrestling with this question and I was looking for an answer from them. Now, to be completely fair, I have a response to this question. It's not a new question to me, but it was one that, since I had the opportunity, I thought I would ask Dr. Turek what his response to this question might be. So for some of the surrounding context, I asked Turek, and I put it in this context. I said, for the last several years, I've been following the careers of people like Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris, and I've been studying apologetics vividly. And my curiosity is that when we look at people like Jordan Peterson, he seems to be earnestly seeking, and he seems to be getting closer and closer to the acceptance not only of the existence of God, but of Christianity in particular. At the same time, when we follow the careers of people like Sam Harris, he seems to be very intently researching and studying and developing and learning, but he doesn't seem to be moving anywhere closer to God. And so those were the two examples that I gave Dr. Turek when I asked him, why is that? I have my own answers to this question, and I'm going to share that with you. But first, I want to share with you some of the things that Dr. Turek said.
Well, there's a number of reasons. If they're truly seeking, they will find the truth according to Jesus. But if they're not truly seeking, if they just say they are and aren't, they won't, because God is not going to force himself upon them.
As a Christian who studies my Bible and knows the word of Jesus, I fully agree with what Dr. Turek said here. My problem is that it's an unfalsifiable claim. And I don't tend to like unfalsifiable claims. Idealistically, we find claims that are falsifiable and then we show them as strong and sound and valid. And that's my preference. So I try to steer away from unfalsifiable claims, which is actually in part why I asked Dr. Turek this question. In fact, I even prefaced my question before I asked him this, and I told him, or I asked him, are you a Calvinist? Because if you're a Calvinist, I know your answer to this question, it's unfalsifiable, and I don't need to ask you it. And his response was, very cheekily, I wasn't predestined to be a Calvinist. So, I don't disagree with Turek here. I don't disagree with Dr. Turek at all. But it's an unfalsifiable claim, and I want something that's a little bit more universal, something that I can actually share with my atheistic friends and it can resonate with them. That's one of the reasons I don't like unfalsifiable claims. They don't actually resonate with people who don't already agree with them.
Dawkins has already ruled out any intelligence as a possibility. So the only game in town for his interpretation is going to be, it has to be a common ancestor gotten here through natural means. He's already philosophically ruled out an intelligent being. But if you're open to both, if you're open to intelligence and natural laws, you can look at the evidence and go, well, this could go either way, couldn't it?
This is a really good point, and this is the point that I want to make more and make more clearly. The point of intellectual honesty. When we're looking at the evidences, it's intellectually honest to not go in with any of our pre-existent biases. Now, we recognize that as human beings, we all have pre-existent biases towards virtually everything. We need to identify those, recognize them, be honest about them, and do everything in our powers to put them aside when we're doing investigations into the evidence. And I think that Dr. Turek has a point here, that very frequently, people on all sides of the aisle go into the examination of the evidence with their predispositions, with their biases, and instead of examining the evidence and following it where it leads, they find a way to fit the evidence into their pre-existent worldview. And I think he's right. When we do that, we necessarily avoid the truth. One of the things that I would urge you to do as either an atheist or a theist or a Christian is to recognize your biases and then put them aside while examining the evidence and see where that evidence gets you.
If you're going to automatically rule out intelligent causes before you look at the evidence, then people like Sam Harris and Richard Dawkins are never going to find the truth because they philosophically ruled out the right answer from the get-go.
And here, this is just reiterating the point that I just made, which tells me that Dr. Turek and I are actually in agreement on this, and we kind of have the same answer to this question. The reason that I asked the question was actually primarily because I wanted to have an opportunity to speak to Dr. Turek and just to thank him for the work that he's done. The reality is that I've been very inspired, and a lot of what we do here at the Defenders Academy is based on a lot of what Dr. Frank Turek does. One of the reasons, among many, that I am writing a book and getting a book published is because I want the opportunity to give it to people the same way that Dr. Turek gives a book to anybody who asks him a question when they are clearly an atheist. He invites them to think critically about the evidence, and I want to be able to do the same thing. And another thing that's very big on Frank Turek's ministry is that he gets to work on college campuses and work with college students, and that's where my passion is, that's where my heart is. So I wanted the opportunity to engage with Dr. Turek simply out of respect for Dr. Turek. And one of the cool things about this story is the way that it ends, because it doesn't actually end at this event. It actually ends almost a year later, where in November at the EPS ETS conference, I had the opportunity to share a meal with Dr. Turek and to have a dialogue with him. And I got to actually shake his hand and thank him for his work. And then we had a private conversation where he encouraged me on my ministry and he gave me some advice about what I should do moving forward. So that's a really cool full circle story of everything that's happened in this short dialogue that you see. On his video, on his channel, Dr. Turek has this less than a 3-minute video. I wanted to take an opportunity to expand on it a little bit more and show you guys a little bit more of what's going on. So, God bless. Hey, real quick, have you considered joining us on Patreon yet? If you haven't, I want you to prayerfully consider joining us and supporting us in that way. One of the things that's going to happen is you're going to get private access to a private Discord, and you're going to get private access to other trainings that don't go up on YouTube, that don't go up on our podcast. So, for example, we're starting out January of next year with a study on love, where we're going to do a multi-part series going into what love is biblically, what love is holistically, what love means everywhere that we see it in the Bible, and how we apply that to our life, since it was actually the greatest commandment, to love the Lord thy God and to love thy neighbor. So we're going to have a whole series on that. Following that, we're going to have our series on the Warrior's Garden, which, if you don't know what that is yet, if you don't know what I've talked about, I'm going to invite you to actually go to our podcast, because I have a sneak peek episode that is titled Sneak Peek Warrior's Garden. Go check that out and see if it's for you. Now, the reason that I'm inviting you over to Patreon isn't just so you can get these cool bonuses and that you can get access to other information that isn't put out on our YouTube channel. It's actually because I'm inviting you to partner with us and to support us in our ministry. We're not able to do what we do without the support of people like you. So prayerfully consider supporting us, whether it's at $3 a month or $100 a month, whatever you can do comfortably. Prayerfully consider supporting our ministry, and I look forward to seeing you inside our private Patreon channel. God bless.